Good morning. Want to call to order the September 12th, 2017 meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, and welcome to all who've joined us. I know we have a number of presentations and recognitions here this morning, so we'll move to those in just a few moments. But before we do that, we want to get started with our regular announcements, and certainly to have the clerk call the roll to establish a quorum, and then we'll get underway. So, Flo, turn it over to you.
Good morning. Supervisor Cerna?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Peters?
Here.
Frost? Here. Natoli?
Here.
And you have a quorum. This meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and is webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will be repeated Friday, September 15th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any local library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address the board may fill out a speaker slip and hand it to staff. When the chair calls your name, please come to the podium, and also please silence your electronic devices.
Thank you, Flo. Mr. Goh, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any items to be dropped or continued from the agenda?
I do have some notes. So for your consent matters 1 through 43, for item 28, I do need a motion to drop this item. This is the approval of a subdivision improvement agreement extending the Vineyard Creek Unit 1 subdivision improvement agreement for an additional 24 months.
Okay, the chair would move.
Second.
Please vote.
Unanimous vote. And then I also do have a note for item 34. This is the asphalt concrete overlay project, award of bid to Lehman Construction Company Incorporated. And Mr. Penrose is going to come up and point out some corrections in attachment 2.
Okay, Mr. Penrose.
Good morning, members of the board. Mike Penrose, Public Works and Infrastructure Agency. I just wanted to clean up the record on this item. The recommendation and the contract award amount are not modified at all, but attachment 2, which is the bidder's proposal sheet, had some errors in it in terms of the one that was submitted with the board package, and I just want to put the revised one in so that we have it all clear for accounting purposes later as we do the contract management. So. Sorry to digress on it, but the one sheet I wanted to highlight that is different for the record is it's page 3 of the bid proposal, and there are some corrections that were made to that to total to the actual contract amount. So just needed to highlight that so that when it goes through accounting, there isn't any questions about the final accounting. So the red adjusted numbers here are the correct way of making adjustments to math errors that are associated with the bid proposal. So we've made those corrections on the addendum now for attachment 2. And that does comport or align exactly with the actual board letter that identifies the contract amount for the award of the contract. So again, it's just cleaning up one attachment. Sorry to do that. So. Any questions?
Yeah.
When were these changes made?
The actual corrections for the actual total amount that I'm reflecting here now were done 3 or so weeks ago. What happened is the wrong document got uploaded by accident. So that's why the board letter is consistent. The total amount for the board award and everything else is all consistent. It's just this.
We're all clean on the bid process?
Correct.
And
yes,
okay.
100%. It was just I wanted to get this correct in the record. So.
Appreciate that.
So just to be clear, what was transmitted to us was on the document you have up on the screen showed the $677,296.30 as being the amount when actually it should reflect the $676,966.80.
That's correct, and that's the number. The 676,966.80 is what's in the board letter.
Right.
And the contractor's aware of that. All of it's consistent. Just that we didn't get this revised one in the attachment in the board package, essentially. So.
Okay. As long as we're discussing this, I want to say yay at last. We've only been at this portion for 5 years on the street. I think it's 5 years. And when I used to represent that area, and now Supervisor Frost does, but Wow, took a long time.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Supervisor Frost, did you have any?
Oh, how long did it take? Curious.
Well, it was when I represented that section of Garfield's.
Yeah,
We've been at this.
been picking away at Garfield section by section for about 6 years. Supervisor Peters is correct in that. We haven't had full funding to do the full segment, and in fact, this is a project that earlier this year we had to reject bids and rebid a shorter portion to match the funding availability, and your board was concerned about deliverability for this year, and we believe we should be able to have it constructed before winter.
And will we get that corrected sheet so that we can upload that with when we do the final upload of our documents?
That's correct, and that's why I wanted to do this today, so we can get it in the record correctly.
Okay,
So,
great.
thank you. So.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All right.
That concludes my notes.
Okay. All right, let me then ask board members any item you wish to address or pull off the consent calendar. Yeah, Supervisor Peters?
Yeah, thank you. Let the record reflect I'm recusing on item 8 due to a potential conflict of interest.
Okay. So noted. Okay. Sir, Mr. Kennedy? Okay. And just noting that certainly Supervisors Peters' recusal on the item 8, I did want to just ask, keep it on the consent calendar, but I spoke to the county executive this morning, and that as it relates to that item, obviously we're going to have a board set of workshop for October related to Mather items, and I would just ask that as a part of this, part of the discussion, Mr. Gill, you know, I spoke this morning, when they purchase the property, the federal government's under no obligation then to either comport with local requirements, either city or county, as relates to street standards, contributions to facilities, districts, and so forth. And I know that we had this conversation some time ago. I had a presentation out at Mather, and Mr. Stockwell and I crossed calls over the last couple of days. I would hope that, certainly in the spirit of cooperation, in which this has been taken, that they would also recognize that some of the street improvements, major investment by the county and city of Rancho Cordova, and as it relates to architectural and other aspects of building, they have their own route, and I think, and I see Mr. Witten here in the audience too, so I would hope that as we embody that, at least in the spirit of what goes forward. Obviously, we can't dictate that to the federal government as much as we might like to at times, but I would hope that we could get that, you know, as part of this deed transmittal, that we would include that, and maybe even some report back on that when it comes back in October. So
We'll do that.
okay. Anyway, but I would also compliment Mr. Witten is here, and I know he and others on the economic development team for your good work. It's been a long time in the making, and appreciate the effort. So that's all I had on that item. All right. Any other item? I had some speakers on item 48, which will be heard a little later this morning. But anyone who wants to speak to any item on the consent calendar? All right. Seeing none, then a motion would be in order, noting recusal by Supervisor Peters on item 8. We have a motion.
Move approval.
Okay. Chair would second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote with item 8, Supervisor Peters recusing.
Okay, very good. Okay, now we go down to some of the presentations. So.
Okay, for item 44, it's the presentation of resolution congratulating Bank of Stockton upon the occasion of its 150th anniversary.
Okay, I'm going to call Dan Lawrence, I guess Kathy Kimbo, to come join me at the... Step over here in front of the microphones here for a second. Well, it is my pleasure and certainly good fortune this morning to be able to join with my colleagues and certainly folks here in the audience to recognize quite an achievement by a long-standing business, probably one of the longest-standing ones in the state, but certainly as a financial institution, one that has served its customers and the community for now 150 years. And with me today is Dan Lawrence, who is president of the Bank of Stockton branch in the city of Elk Grove, and also Kathy Kimbo, I believe you're in the marketing.
No, the customer service manager.
Customer service manager, okay, for the entire?
Just for the Elk Grove.
Oh, just for the Elk Grove branch, okay. But I think the reason for today's recognition is, one, to recognize a longstanding business, but also the presence of this particular business in our broader community now for 150 years. And when you think back, obviously none of us were here 150 years ago, but it was just right after the end of the Civil War that this bank was first founded, obviously with the foresight of some of its leaders at the time. The president at that time was J.M. Kelsey. And I don't know if there's any family members still involved with the branch.
I don't think so.
No, not.
Eberhardt's now.
Yeah, and and of course, bearing its name, was located initially in Stockton, in the city of Stockton, and actually shared some space with the one of the other businesses, the Union Copper Mining Company. And just, again, a little bit of trivia, but their rent for their location at that point in time was $41 per month. But their philosophy on prioritizing customer service, certainly something that obviously Kathy continues in her work with the branch now grow, was to prioritize certainly the efforts to serve their depositors and actually to keep reinvesting in the community over the years. And over the years, certainly with their presence in Stockton, long before banks began to branch out into other areas. Their work for several decades included obviously supporting business people and farmers and home loans and others in the Stockton community in San Joaquin County. And then over the years, they grew, and certainly were very instrumental, their leadership in the bank, in helping things progress in the Central Valley, including helping to bring the Santa Fe and Western Pacific Railroads to the San Joaquin and Stockton area. They actually were part of establishing the first Chamber of Commerce in the city of Stockton, and were instrumental in some of the efforts that were the foundations for the establishment of the College of the Pacific at the time, now obviously the University of Pacific. And whether it's been through wars or through the Great Depression or even the Great Recession, this institution has continued to flourish and to prosper and to serve its customers in a very important way, and certainly to serve the economic development, but also the needs and efforts of individuals as well. And so, on behalf of the County of Sacramento, and now they obviously have branches throughout California, I think, 16 different locations?
19.
19 different locations, and have continued to grow and to prosper. And actually have, as I recall here, $2.9 billion in assets, and under the leadership of the current bank president, Douglas M. Earhart II. And so with that being said, it's my pleasure to, on behalf of this board and this community, to recognize 150 years of service and to, again, congratulate the Bank of Stockton. Its leadership, certainly Dan Lawrence, has been a long time fixture in Elk Grove. His work with the Chamber of Commerce there and with other financial institutions, and he and Kathy obviously have continued to grow the resources that the bank offers, but also been tremendous civic contributors in their own way, and so we thank you for your service as well. So with that being said, we offer our congratulations on 150 years of banking and serving this community, and wish you well as you embark on the next 150 years. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you very much for recognizing the bank. We do, to me, I love community banking, and it exemplifies community banking where you get to know the customers and build a relationship. And I've known you for over 30 years now, I think, I've been there. So thank you, and thank you, Board of Supervisors. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Congratulations. Take care. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. Item 45, presentation of resolution proclaiming October 2017 as Sacramento County Employee Giving Campaign Month.
Okay. Fine. Connie Ahmed, join us. Hi, Connie.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. And I'm going to let Connie give the background on this, but we do have a proclamation, as we do annually, to recognize the kickoff of the Employee Giving Campaign Month. And Connie's been tabbed with the title and certainly the task of overseeing and chairing this year's effort. and I know she'll be up to that task, and certainly she can offer some comments about the different federations and charities that are involved in this, but certainly the appeal we make to county employees and their tremendous cooperation and involvement and generosity that they show throughout the course of every year over the course of now many decades in the what was then the joint campaign, and obviously now the combined campaign, and the effort to have county employees participate and give back to their communities and to their favorite charities and nonprofit organizations. So on behalf of the board, we again recognize October 2017 as the Sacramento County Employee Giving Campaign Month, and commend you to your task, and we know that there'll be a lot of activities, and you'll share that with us. So thanks, Connie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning, Connie Ahmed, Director of Revenue Recovery. I have the honor of being the chair of the Employee Giving Campaign this year. One of the important things, one of the most important roles that I have is to bring enthusiasm to the campaign. We had training last week, and as I told the department chairs and the department heads who were present, that every now and then I would give a woo! And so, keep people up, while we're going through training, and if I started to see eyes droop, and we had a really, really good time going through the material. I'm very excited. We have some new things to offer to staff, predominantly an online way, a web-based way to be able to make their donations, either through payroll deduction or one-time donations using their debit or credit cards. And so that's brand new for this year. In the past, we'd only been able to make online our payroll deductions online. So we're hoping that will have a very big positive impact on the campaign. We had a soft launch already. Employees received their email with their login information to the new system, and the sign-ups for the 5K race started yesterday. So far we have $16,000 in pledges and only 16 teams registered. We have a capacity for 100 teams. Last year the 5K race generated $5,000 in pledges for the entire event. So we're already 3 times off and running with this year's campaign. The campaign, there are a number of federations that participate. The campaigns, they target either health, community, children, global, environmental causes, many causes that employees can choose from. Employees were very generous last year and generated over $250,000 in donations to a number of charities, including those that are Sacramento County entities. This year our goal is $300,000, and so we're hoping that generosity will continue, and those who contributed last year maybe can contribute $5 more, and those who haven't perhaps can contribute, $5 or $10 a pay period, or a one-time donation in any amount that they can afford would really help these causes and help our community and these organizations that provide vital services to those in need, to help the environment, to help children, to further education. There's just a whole range of charities to choose from. And then the final thing is with the new online system, we are supporting the County Executive's Paperless Initiative. We used to print thousands of brochures to distribute throughout the county. This year the brochures are going to be online, and so employees can scan through them and at their leisure. The other benefit to this new online system is that staff who do not have access to PCs or computers in the work site can access this website anywhere from their phone or any device where they can access the internet. So we're making donating easier than ever, and helping to do our part to save the environment as well. So with that, I really thank the board for your support, and woo! Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Don.
Obviously, her enthusiasm is going to be contagious, I trust. So anyway, thanks, Connie.
Maybe she could come to some of our longer board meetings.
Well, I can say for those of us who are a little bit tech challenged and rely on paper, you're making it tougher and tougher for us.
Who would that be, Don?
Me. I'll still find a way to donate, though. So thanks again, and certainly we'll get a chance to hear more in the months to come about the success of the campaign. So very good. All right, next one, Flo.
Item 46 is the presentation of resolution recognizing Sacramento County Sustainable Business of the Year Award recipients for 2017.
And I'll invite Mr. Witten to join with us. And I need one of those proclamations. Borrow one. And I'll introduce Mr. Witten in just a second, but this certainly is something that we, again, do annually, recognizing businesses who have been environmentally friendly, and certainly this year I want to make a special call out, though, to not only the fact that we're recognizing the week ahead, September 18th through 24th, as National Pollution Prevention Week in Sacramento County. This is I believe, the 24th anniversary of the Business Environmental Resource Center, and going back to 1993 when it was first established. And obviously, Clark Whitten and June Livingston and their colleagues are in a long succession of folks who've worked to serve the community, to work with our private and public partners to have good practices as it relates to business practices that contribute to a healthy environment, but also help them in their efforts to do business here in this community. And so I want to certainly commend Burke and our staff and all their partners, and recognize that we are going to, again, this year, recognize some very important contributors to our local economy, but employers and businesses who really have made that extra effort, and we're pleased to have them here in the audience this morning. So, Clark, I have one of these for you, but I'll let you go ahead and we'll catch you here towards the tail end. We recognize some of our guests.
Thank you, Supervisor. Good morning. I'm Clark Whitten, Burke Division Director, the Business Environmental Resource Center. As Supervisor Natoli said, in honor of National Pollution Prevention Week, which is next week, September 18th to the 24th, we have in attendance today Burke's 2017 Sacramento Area Sustainable Business Award recipients. And as Supervisor Natoli said, 24 years ago, your board had the vision to create Burke. We provide permit and regulatory compliance assistance. It's free and it's confidential. One of our programs, the Sacramento Area Sustainable Business Program, has become the region's benchmark for achievable sustainable practices for businesses. We've certified over 521 businesses, and we've honored 211 businesses since we started in 2007. Our program and this award ceremony is possible only due to our support of our funding partners. Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District, Regional SAN, DWR, Sacramento Regional Solid Waste Authority, EMD, County Building, County Planning, and SMUT. This year's award winners have gone above and beyond to implement sustainable practices, and they stand out as models in the Sacramento region. By highlighting their voluntary efforts, these winners have taken to improve sustainability in our region. We hope their example encourages other businesses to follow. Of this year's 7 recipients, 4 are small businesses. Areas of sustainability of our certification include transportation air quality, energy conservation, water conservation, pollution prevention, solid waste reduction, and green building. In addition, this year we've included a Cultural Sustainability Award. And this is the 4th year Burke has partnered with the Sacramento Business Journal to host the awards, scheduled next week, September 20th, at the Sokopolis Library Galleria. At this time, I'd like to invite Supervisor Natoli down to present the 7 award winner resolutions. Once each award-winning organization is named, please proceed to Supervisor Natoli to receive your board resolution, then to the podium for some brief remarks, and lastly, a quick photo. After the resolutions are presented, a group photo will be taken with all board members behind the podium. So let's get going. In the first category, Transportation Air Quality.
The winner is.
The award recipient is Uptown Studios. Although they have many great sustainable practices, today we're focused on their bike commuter parking area for employees and clients. The City of Sacramento granted permission for the parking area to be placed in front of their business for convenient curbside bike parking. Uptown promotes cycling for errands and lunch breaks to reduce vehicle travel. Please join me in welcoming Kristen Strau and Mia Lopez, who I saw ride their bike today to this.
With the support of Uptown Studios and Tina Reynolds, actually, I sold my car 2 months ago and has been able to get around Sacramento without one. It was her support, bike racks installed in front of the office, and her commitment to community and a cleaner environment that has allowed us to do that.
And I have always ridden public transportation, as hard as it is in Sacramento. And I've made it part of my purpose to make sure that my teenage daughter knows how to navigate the system as well, so that, you know, when she's 15 and a half and wants to go to the mall, I can let her do that.
And Uptown Studios is very supportive with reimbursement for public transit. We have a car that we share through the office, so if we have meetings that are outside of the office, we're able to use that. So it really is very supportive for active transportation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take a quick photo.
Okay.
One more.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you. Good job.
Thanks.
In our next category, the solid waste category, the award recipient is Mulvaney's B&L. Mulvaney's has wholeheartedly embraced solid waste reduction, no small task in the restaurant industry. What used to be 12 yards of waste has been reduced to less than a 5-gallon bucket. Impressive. All takeout boxes and utensils are made of biodegradable materials, and edible food is donated to the local food rescue agencies. Mulvaney's B&L is a leader in restaurant sustainability and is featured in the Solid Waste Authority's newly launched Waste Right campaign. Please join me in welcoming Chef Patrick Mulvaney.
Thank you.
Careful what you say.
Everybody just wants to know what words I'm going to use. I want to thank Burke and the County Board of Supervisors and everybody. The waste reduction is important, but people sometimes ask why chefs. The truth is that what we do as a living in a restaurant is take in product and get the most out of it. And really this waste reduction piece where now those 3 dumpsters that used to go to the landfill now turn into methane and cardboard and fertilizer for the environment are really all part of what we do. But we want to thank Sacramento writ large for their support in this and hope for better things in the future. Thank you.
In our next category, energy conservation, the award recipient is the Sacramento Kings Golden One Center. Our beloved Golden One Center is LEED Platinum. To put that in perspective, it is in the top 3% of high-performance buildings in the world. Golden One Center has attained a 30% reduction in energy usage over California Title 24 requirements and features an urban smart solar grid that allows for collection of power on site. Please join me in welcoming Scott Moog, Vice President of Community Impact and Executive Director of the Kings Foundation.
No, that's really good. You should hear Cerna do it, though. He's really... I was told Patrick Mulvaney was bringing breakfast, so I'm extremely disappointed in this morning already. Thank you so much for this honor. It's an incredible lineup of folks to be honored next to, obviously, the the Kings, the building, starting at the top with our owner, Vivek Ranadive, all the way down. We've known that when we were going to build that building, it was our absolute requirement. It was a requirement of ours to build it the right way, and that included not only how we use water and what we do with food, to use Patrick's example, but how we heat and cool the building. And using the solar panels up on top has allowed us to do some things that the world is literally watching every day. I just had the chance to visit China. I'm literally back for 2 days. I've been back from China. I haven't slept. I was up at 12:30 a.m. and haven't gone to bed yet, so it's almost bedtime for me.
Time for beer.
After breakfast. But what was great is hearing them, even these folks that we were meeting with as part of the delegation in China, who had some familiarity with Sacramento, knowing what we are doing in this area in particular. Clearly, China has a lot of ways to go as it relates to environmental sensitivity and things that they need to do better. And looking at Sacramento as an exemplar was really fascinating. And kudos to you and to the County Board of Supervisors, all of you up there who make really smart and helpful decisions for our community every single day. So thank you very much.
In our next category, pollution prevention, the award recipient is Refill Madness. This forward-thinking company, only 1.5 years old, has removed more than 10,000 plastic containers from Sacramento's waste stream. Refill Madness completely removes single-use plastics from the waste stream by refilling customers' existing containers with name-brand eco-friendly household cleaners, bath and body products. In addition, customers decide the quantity of the product. What a novel concept. Please join me in welcoming Sloan Reed, owner of Refill Madness.
Thank you to Burke and the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. We are proud to offer the Sacramento community a sustainable alternative to purchasing everyday consumables like your hand soaps, dish liquids, and laundry detergents, just to name a few. And we do this while decreasing our carbon footprint and bringing awareness to the problem of plastic pollution. Like he said, we've removed over 10,500 single-use plastic containers from the waste stream by refilling and reusing what customers already have. No need to replace something that already works. And so it's being landfills or recycling centers or the environment, and we look forward to removing several thousand more in the future. So thank you.
In our next category, green building, the award recipient is Architectural Nexus. This company literally has a living green wall. Gray water from showers, faucets, and dishwashing is recycled, filtered, and returned to a holding tank to be used later in the toilet tanks and irrigation of the living wall. They've also installed a composting toilet system to treat waste on-site for usage as fertilizer, and water from waste is separated and evaporated through the roof vents. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Davis, Principal, Architectural Nexus.
I just wanted to say thank you for this award, and thank you for all that you are doing for our community. As a part of our process, in designing the building, we reached out to the community and had community input on our private project, because we believe that every project in our community affects our community. Also, just wanted to accept this in honor of one of our founding partners who founded our firm here in Sacramento 30 years ago, who recently passed away, Alan Oshima. And we're glad for the legacy that he's left us. And just one other thing, we really hope that this puts Sacramento on the map with sustainability, as the certification we're pursuing will be the 15th in the world. It'll be the first in California for the Living Building Challenge, and it'll be the first adaptable reuse building that will receive the Living Building Challenge certification in the world. And so we're really excited about this. Thank you.
All right, in our next category, water conservation, the award winner is Sacramento Suburban Water District. The district utilized principles of river-friendly landscaping to transition nearly 20,000 square feet of land into sustainable, low-water use, biodiverse gardens at 2 locations. The gardens have drought-resistant plants, systems to capture stormwater that reduce runoff and reliance on potable water, and are helpful for public education. Please join me in welcoming Dan York, Assistant General Manager.
Good morning, members of the board. On behalf of the Sacramento Suburban Water District's board members and ratepayers, thank you very much for this resolution and award. As everybody knows, California, the last several years, we've had major drought issues. By installing these drought-resistant gardens, it further assists the district in educating our ratepayers and the community in further ways they can conserve water. We're not done with the drought. I know we got a lot of water and snow right now, but it still is a continuing effort. So without the effort of our partners in installing these, this wouldn't have been a success. So I'd like to real quick take a few moments here just to acknowledge those partners. Eco Landscape California, Landscape Liaisons, Imagine Landscapes, Landscape Symphonies, Tranquil Gardens, and the Fulton Hill Community Recreation and Parks District. They partnered with us to provide the land at Howe Park to place one of the drought gardens. So thank you very much.
Okay, our final award is Cultural Sustainability. The award winner is Regional Sand, the largest wastewater agency in Northern California. Regional Sand prides itself in being a regional leader in environmental stewardship. In 2016, the Going Green program was launched to help employees make smart choices, including reducing his or her carbon footprint. Employees were encouraged to make facility recycling improvements, conserve water and electricity, as well as suggest additional sustainable improvements. Looking at culture has helped refocus Regional Sand, and as a part of these efforts, Regional Sand earned recognition in the Utility of the Future Today program. Please join me in welcoming Christoph Dobson, Director of Policy, Regional Sand.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. As you well know, as members also sitting on the Regional Sand Board of Directors, we're very proud to have part of our mission to be environmental protection and sustainability. So we're very proud of receiving this award. And just quickly, my second point I wanted to make is that we appreciate Burke and the Board of Supervisors handing out this award and recognizing the cultural side of sustainability. It's kind of under the radar. We do environmental projects that everyone sees, but this is getting our employees involved and changing the culture of the organization. So we're really proud and excited and want to thank you very much.
All right, could we give our award winners one more round? So in conclusion, we invite everyone to join us for our free event next week, September 20th, 8 a.m., Socopolis Library Galleria, to honor our award winners. Additionally, I just heard that Congresswoman Matsui has confirmed that she's going to attend to help us honor our award recipients. At this time, I'd like to invite all award winners up behind the podium for a group photo with the Board of Supervisors.
And the desk?
You want to do behind or in front? Oh, we'll do
Okay.
Yeah.
You invite board members down?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll invite students and-
That's it. How are you? Thank you.
You want me here?
That's part of the point. Maybe step in a little bit further. Try to squeeze in as much as you can.
What if you go behind the stand behind you? Right there. Let's go.
You just go. Let's go over you.
Right.
Alrighty. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Item 47, presentation of Food Safety Awards of Excellence.
Okay, may I invite Marie Wooden, come on down, and anybody else from the Environmental Management Department. And I know we've got some presentations that they'll be heading up, but this is an opportunity for our board certainly to recognize businesses in our community and to, again, I think invite folks to focus a bit on National Food Safety Month, and I'll let Marie tell us a little bit more about that. But we do have a proclamation, again, proclaiming this month, September 2017, as National Food Safety Month, and we certainly commend our professional staff for their interactions and leadership in our community, and seeing to it that not only food preparation, but certainly food handling, and that our environment in which we all participate, whether in eating or preparing the food, is one that we can all have confidence in that it'll be safe and provide us with sustenance, but also in a manner that's prepared that in accordance with certainly rules and regulations, but good food handling practices. And so we recognize that, and I'll let Marie, as I said, talk about this, but thank you for your leadership, and we're going to recognize some businesses who, again, I think are outstanding examples of those who actually work very, very diligently to make sure their customers, but certainly that the Environmental Management Department regulations are adhered to as well. So, Marie, I'll present this to you on behalf of your department.
Thank you.
And then I'll let you take over.
Okay. Again, my name is Marie Wooden. I'm the interim director for the Environmental Management Department. I want to thank Chair Natoli, board members, for this presentation this morning, for declaring September as National Food Safety Month. This is extremely important because it recognizes the health and safety work both our inspectors and restaurants perform, working collaboratively in reducing foodborne illnesses in Sacramento County. Sacramento County remains below average for statewide numbers on foodborne illnesses. Thank you. And now, Chair Natoli, if you'll rejoin us at the podium. I have with me Jason Baitzer. He is the division chief that oversees our food safety program, and he'll be presenting the awards and explaining how we selected the recipients for this very special award in food safety excellence.
Yeah. You need a picture? Need a picture
Sure.
first? All right. Yeah, I don't want you to get in the middle. Here, do this. And just before Jason, before we get some comments, I wanted to note too that, and you may be going to cover this, but that this is the 10th year, I believe, of our food placard. And again, it's been replicated in many different communities, and I actually was in Nevada just last weekend ago and noted that in the county there, they've adopted it very recently, and I said that started in Sacramento County. So anyway, I'm going to let you cover this, and then we'll do some awards and invite board members down for each of the respective districts. So go ahead, Jason.
Thank you. This is the next slide.
Good morning, Chair Natoli, members of the board. I'm Jason Baitzer, Environmental Health Division Chief. Chair Natoli had a good segue into the 10-year anniversary of the Green, Yellow, Red program, and we thank the board for the support of that program, which has increased compliance with food safety laws in Sacramento County, and most importantly, it's provided an easy way to understand the inspection results by our staff for the consumer. But as Chair Natoli noted, Washoe County in Nevada just recently adopted the Green, Yellow, Red placard system, along with Yolo County, our neighbor. So it's nice to see people emulating this great program that started 10 years ago in Sacramento County. It's our pleasure today to honor the food safety efforts of 5 of 676 local restaurants, markets, schools, and health care facilities that will be receiving this year's Food Safety Awards, and that's out of approximately 6,000 permitted facilities within Sacramento County. Providing safe food in Sacramento County is a collaborative effort between EMD staff and food facility operators. To be eligible for the award, facilities have to show exemplary, consistent record of safe food handling practices and must have no major violations in the last 3 inspection reports with limited number of minor violations. We recognize it takes a tremendous amount of work to operate a food facility, so we'd like to commend all the food facility operators, their staff, for their efforts for providing safe food to the customers. At this time, I'd like to recognize one facility from each district. I will introduce the facility and then call the recipient to come down to receive the award from the Board of Supervisors. And this year we'll be starting off with District 5.
That's a new twist.
We didn't want you to go back and forth. So District 5, it's Famous Burgers, located off of Zinfandel Drive. They're open for lunch and dinner. Their specialty items include gourmet burgers, and they were recently recognized in National Geographic for their specialty burgers that they serve. So at this time, I invite Izar, Ali, Iman, and Tiffany to come down and receive the award.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Congratulations. Thank you. We'll turn around and get a picture and let you say a few words. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll turn around here and get a picture, and then we'll let you say some words. All right.
Well, good morning. I always seen this channel on local channel, but never watch it. I'm gonna watch.
Now you have to.
Yes, I'll watch it. Well, thank you, Health Department, for years of advice to us, so we can use those advice to be a better facility. And thank you guys for recognition. Makes us, it's a hard work, so your recognition give us more power and drive to work harder and achieving more. Thanks for Sacramento. Thank you.
And I would just say very quickly, and I know that each of us had a chance to visit the business that was recognized in our respective districts. I was out there, I guess it was about 9 o'clock in the morning. They were already preparing, obviously, for the noon hour and for the rest of the day. And it's very much a family operation that the two brothers and the father here, but there's others, and their mother and I think sister and brother, and are all involved.
Yeah, the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, the whole neighborhood. And that's why not much time to watch television, I can tell you. So, but at any rate, I was very impressed, and certainly, obviously, they've impressed others, both here in the local community, but certainly nationally with your product, and obviously with your famous burger. It is very famous. So congratulations.
Well,
to
thanks
you.
for marketing too. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
So next, I'd like to recognize District 1 Representative, Supervisor Cerna's district, Anna's Vegan Cafe. This cafe is located off of Stockton Boulevard and serves lunch and dinner, and specializes in vegan dishes such as sauteed garlic delight and sweet and sour nuggets. This is another family-owned and operated facility. So at this time, I'd like to have Man Hoon join us at the podium and recognize his great efforts.
So I have to share a somewhat funny story here. It was August 17th. I went to present the award on site at Anna's Vegan Cafe, and as I typically do, I posted the activities I was involved with that day, and I think by about 10 o'clock that night, there were, I think, almost 250 likes on Facebook. But then there was also some commentary that very evening, since I had posted it, they were swamped. Is that true? Yeah. So apparently, it was pretty good advertising when you're being recognized for food safety, as it should be. So with that, I want to congratulate you on. I think this is not just the first. This isn't the first time that you've actually been recognized for food safety, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the podium is yours if you'd like to say a few words. No? Okay, all right, very good. Congratulations.
Moving into District 2, this time I'd like to invite Supervisor Kennedy down. We'd like to recognize Cafe Latte, which is a family-owned and operated facility. When I was there, I recognized it as a neighborhood hangout serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and specializes in American dishes, great breakfast, burgers and salads, and specialty items such as the shrimp pesto pasta. So at this time, I'd like to invite Daniel and Teresa Lavelle down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just wanted to really quickly, as you said, it is a total neighborhood hangout. I mean, if you go to Cafe Latte, if you ever, I mean, it is like a living room for the Greenhaven Pocket area. Everybody feels wonderful. They're comfortable there. And I have to say that I've been going there for years, so nobody could be happier that your kitchen is clean than I am. So keep up that good work. And Supervisor Cerna, I was actually told to embargo my photo until today, so I did not post anything. I will be posting shortly, and I hope that you will be just as swamped. So thank you very much. We'd like to say a few words.
I would just like to thank the health department. It's easier when they work with the health department instead of against the health department. It makes life easier. Daryl Steinberg and Rick Jenkins frequently visit us also, so thank you very much. Come and join us.
Congratulations.
So recognizing District 3, at this time I invite Supervisor Peters down. We'd like to recognize Sol Cubano. This is facilities located in North Highlands off of Watt Avenue and specialize in Cuban food such as empanadas and oxtail with Cuban rice, which is one of my favorites. Open for lunch and dinner, and this is a family-owned and operated facility. So Margarita Chain and Lau Milan, thank you.
moving again. I wanted to thank your department for recognizing a North Highlands business. That's really nice. I'm glad to have you here today and know that you're producing award-winning clean food. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, first I would like to thank you, the Health Department, for all the guidance, and also for the Board Supervisor to invite us to come here to, for this great honor to receive this recognition. Thank you very much.
Next, in District 4, I'd like to invite Supervisor Frost down. We'd like to recognize Panda Express off of Alberta Road in Antelope. This facility serves lunch and dinner and specializes in Chinese food and specialty items such as orange chicken. So at this time, I'd like to invite Flora Tan down. One of the things about visiting the facility that struck me with Flora is that she said, these aren't our customers, these are our guests, and you could tell by the facility. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And I just want to congratulate Flora for your hard work, and thank you for recognizing Antelope. And I also want to say that Panda Express is one of those restaurants that go with me in almost every holiday, because it's my husband's favorite Chinese food. So every Christmas, every birthday, we'll be there to get gift cards. Oh, and they last us throughout the year. We eat off of those gift cards. So Panda Express has great food. Thank you for running such a fine establishment.
Thank you, Sue. I just let you know we open 24 hours. Thank you, appreciate that. Thank you, Jason. Just like you mentioned, yes, we serving is not customer, it's my guests. Every day we serving is my family member. They come to my house. That's what I do daily basis. And serve with heart, cook with passion. That's what we do in daily basis. And I'm so grateful. I invite my new associate. This is gonna be her first day in Panda Express. The reason I bring her here and want her to see what we have and what is our goal and what is our future, what we need to do. Thank you.
So thank you, board members, for your continued support in our food safety program. It's really important to have your support and the excellent work that our staff continues to do within our jurisdiction, which is now copied, as Supervisor Natoli said, through many areas in the state of California for the green, yellow, red placarding system that we were the first jurisdiction to implement 10 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marie. Thank you, Marie. Thanks, Jason. Supervisor Kennedy.
Yeah, I just wanted to really quickly make one comment, and that's that, first of all, how often do you sit in a room full of restaurateurs who are thanking the health department? And I think that shows I think there's been over the last few years a culture shift in the department, and I think that you're now viewed as a partner, and it's because you're viewing them as partners. And we're here to work with our restaurant industry, and we're not a gotcha agency. And I see that attitude in you, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Thank you. Okay, again, congratulations to all our award winners and those that were recognized here this morning. Thank you to all of our staff for preparing the presentations as well. Again, quite a morning to celebrate a lot of achievement and certainly good work in our community, so congratulations to all. So, okay, with that, we've got a couple of items that we're going to get to here, and I know we have some people signed up on that, and go ahead and call the next item, please.
Item 48, authority to enter into an agreement with Volunteers of America for $505,776 for operation of a transitional housing program for homeless families with minor children from October 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
Good morning, board members. Chair Natoli, Ann Edwards, Department of Human Assistance.
Yeah, pulls in a little bit, Ann, thanks. Yeah.
And after watching that presentation, I think I'm hungry and have new restaurants to try. So this is always a good thing when there's new restaurants to try. I am before you today as a result of many board workshops, stakeholder meetings, and planning efforts to bring you a recommendation for transitional housing for families. On March 21st of this year, you approved 4 initiatives to address homelessness, and transitional housing for families was part of those initiatives. And while transitional housing has received less support from HUD, our community believes that transitional housing is an important step for some families in our community. On May 15th, DHA released a request for proposals and received 2 proposals on June 2nd. The proposals were reviewed by an independent panel of 3 community representatives. The proposals were scored based on the ability of the submitting organization to articulate experience, capacity to provide services, service offerings and approach, references, and budget design. Volunteers of America was the winning proposal, and St. John's did not file a protest. In the March 21st workshop and in the 2 previous workshops, low barriers services were called out as being critical in addressing homelessness in our community. St. John's program was scored lower due to the fact that they do not serve families with fathers, thus creating a barrier to service for those families. They also scored significantly lower in the area of cultural competence. Finally, St. John's proposal indicated they transitioned 14% of their clients in a given year to permanent housing. For the same year, Volunteers of America transitioned 85% of their families to permanent housing. In addition to the scoring discrepancies, Volunteers of America submitted a bid to serve 25 families for the same cost as the requested 19. The RFP stated we were requesting approximately 19 families to be served, so there was flexibility to bid for more or less families. Since Volunteers of America is proposing 25, an award to VOA nets more units for families, keeps families with fathers intact, and transitions more families to permanent housing. Therefore, I request you approve the department's recommendation to fund Volunteers of America. So that concludes my formal remarks, but something interesting happened this morning that I think highlights the need for low barrier family shelters. We had a situation this morning where a family that's a customer of ours got into a domestic violence dispute, and the wife stabbed the husband, and the wife got arrested for domestic violence. The husband got some stitches and is okay, and he's homeless with his children, and we're working to help find a place for that family.
Okay.
And I am happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thanks, Ann. Stand by. Supervisor Cerna?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ann, for the concise report. I have a question about the process and the instructions specifically for the RFP. Is there any specific mention about the gender specificity in terms of who is being served or who would be served should a particular agency be the successful candidate bidding?
There was no mention of gender. We indicated in the RFP that we wanted to have a low barrier shelter for homeless families with children. We didn't specifically describe the makeup of what a family might look like because we wanted it to be broad and inclusive.
So how do you respond to a grievance that has been issued, and I think you're knowledgeable about, that if there was no reference to gender specificity in the instructions, that part of the way the 2 agencies were scored did make mention of the fact that one of them, St. John's, does not serve men? How do we reconcile that?
Well, I think you reconcile it with the fact that we very specifically stated we wanted a low-barrier shelter. And low barrier, the exclusion of an entire population in and of itself creates a barrier to entry.
In the past, when we've had competitive bid opportunities for similar service delivery, have we at times been specific about gender and how an agency would serve one gender or the other, or both?
I can't answer that without actually going back and looking to be sure. I don't know. I don't know. Not that I can recall, but don't hold me to that.
Just to maybe follow on Supervisor Sernan, that even before we had the communication received from St. John's yesterday, that was a question certainly in my mind, because none of us had seen until the staff report was released the scoring or the staff background. I guess we're precluded under the way RFPs are responded to. And again, this is no reflection on VOA and your recommendation as much as it is going into it. If in fact the raters and those that were scoring the proposals recognize that you have a program, and it could be any program, but a program that has been serving the community that comes in and it's for women and children. It doesn't, as a part of its model, doesn't. So if that in the RFP, whether it's known or unknown, who might be proposers to that creates a barrier in and of itself as it relates to those who would propose. And again, that concerned me. I shared this with Nav last week when I saw the staff report come. And I'm not expecting necessarily to defend that if, in fact, the board did that. But I would just say, in retrospect, if that became, again, we weren't the scorers, we're the ones that actually asked to make the decision here today. That's problematic because even though it may be that we were seeking this package of services, and granted, VOA admits men and women and children to the family program, but if that becomes an immediate score down, then that disadvantages a proposer that serves women and children, or if you had one that served men and their children. And again, that concerns me as to kind of how we got there. I don't know that when we did the workshops in the spring, low barrier wasn't certainly described as that you had to, be all-inclusive. Recognize we have two program providers that are here in the audience this morning, one that's being recommended, one that's not, that are very capable and successful in their own rights in serving certain segments of the population. But there's no less need, to the example you used about this morning, the gentleman who got stabbed, and unfortunately it sounds like he's okay, but didn't have a place to go, so find a spot for him. It wouldn't be with St. John's, even if he was a victim of domestic violence. It would be with VOA or somebody else in that case. So that, I would just say from the get-go, as we start this morning's discussion, that is a concern to me, and I don't know if there's any other explanation beyond what you offered that you'd want to highlight. But going into that, it seems to me that we disadvantage, one of the two proposers right from the get-go. But I wanted to ask you, what was the point about cultural competence? I guess that wasn't clear to me based upon what you just said in the staff report.
There were some significant scoring discrepancies around the cultural competence and I apologize that it's not in the staff report, but as I was re-reviewing the RFP yesterday and the scoring, I noticed that Volunteers of America has a comprehensive 3-year cultural competence plan with evidence-based training, and apparently the reviewers recognized that as well, and there were significant discrepancies in scoring in that area as well.
But that wasn't pointed out in the staff report?
It was not, and okay. I apologize for that.
Let me just ask on one other point, though, and I think this goes, again, to the broader discussion, but certainly reflects on what we're talking about here today. And I know I asked about it last week, and Leo did follow up as part of the conversation about the low barrier, and this relates to Mather, and it relates to certainly to those that have substance abuse as a part of their portfolio, and then trying to overcome that in addition to other challenges. And we, again, have seen that program over the last couple of years because of some of the funding streams, some of the call out by the federal government. But now that we're back into a more local funding stream, at least for about $1,700,000 of that if we make this award today. I guess I'm concerned that we call for low barrier, but we have, and Cindy responded to this at the board meeting last week and during budget, Kavanaugh. What does that mean when it comes to this? Because I think that from the standpoint of community campus and how it's been embraced by the community, and I think our keeping good faith with the community, as we promised 20 years ago now with that program, and recognizing that the funding became strained, and so in order to keep the program alive, we, Sacramento Steps Forward had some reduction in the requirements as part of the funding that they made available. But I guess I want to know today, before we leave this hearing, and so maybe something you can think about and talking with your staff, and I would maybe point to Paul or Nav as well, is that Cindy said we're going to watch that. I don't know what that means, and I don't know what it means as it relates to certainly working with VOA and its program administrator and those who offer the program as to what that means. So by saying we want low barrier, did we then basically, in scoring these, erase that requirement as a part of the funding stream? Because if that's the case, and or make that, push that back, then we need to have the conversation today, because again, that's not my intent, certainly for VOA or St. John's or anybody else that we might fund, that if we know going in that's what we want. But that change at Mather occurred without any board input, basically, and I think I'll let Leo speak to it when he gets a chance to talk to this. But I guess I would ask from a staff perspective, what's your view of that?
Well, I can say that just this week, my staff and myself met with Leo McFarland and his staff to talk about this, and essentially Mather is a clean and sober campus. They still do some drug testing, and they address behavioral issues that could be a result of substance use. I think one of the differences is they really work with the residents who reside there, whether they be individuals or families, who have a relapse. Relapse is very, very often a part of recovery. Not many people go into recovery and never have a relapse. And what Volunteers of America does is work with the individual to support them and see what they can do to help them get back on the recovery track, and not just essentially kick them out of the program because they have had a relapse. So not much has changed. It is still considered a clean and sober property. They just don't kick people out as a result of a relapse.
So when we say not much has changed, how much has changed from the time that the program was instituted or the BOA was?
No, there have been some changes since then, as you know, as a result of HUD. They used to drug test and have to be clean upon entry. And they don't this is my understanding, and Mr. McFarland can clarify if I'm not getting this exactly right. They really do their drug testing based on behaviors. So if someone comes into the program and their behavior is appropriate and okay, and they may have used a day ago or 2 days ago, that doesn't mean they're not going to gain entry into the program because they don't have 30 days of clean and sober under their belt. And they used to have that, and I don't know what the time frame was, but they used to have to come in clean and sober.
Okay, I think it's going to be important, certainly from this board member's perspective anyway, to have a clear understanding. And again, this is no surprise to Leo, and certainly get a chance to hear from him. Because again, it's one thing if we were nearly solely dependent upon federal funding. We're now looking at $1.75 million, almost $2 million of county dollars into the program. And so I think whatever thresholds and or arrangements that this board one has approved a number of years ago, that's never really been revisited. It migrated there maybe out of necessity, maybe out of program funding opportunities and or survival. But nonetheless, I don't think it was the board's intent. I'll just go back to 2009 and 10 when we began to, shift this to what was, then to become Sacramento Steps Forward. That was the intent to erode the basis by which we again had a pact, certainly with the community. And again, this program has enjoyed tremendous community support. And I think part of it has been because, again, they've worked very hard to help people succeed in that are enrolled in the program, recognizing that nobody's perfect, and that if there are folks who have a relapse, that doesn't mean that they get booted out. But I think sobriety and certainly drug testing was a piece of that puzzle, and one that I think is proven to be very effective in that regards. And so, again, I want to be clear about low barrier, though, because again, we can have a debate about what we want to see in all that, but I would just say, I guess, lastly for right now, that certainly it's never been my intent, going back to when we had workshops last year, that programs that have been successful, whether it's VOA or St. John's or Cerna Village or Next Move or right on down the line, big or small, that we were necessarily going to turn everything upside down. That, obviously we're trying to get to a point of serving folks who may be more chronically homeless and be, recidivists to a great degree within the system. We've got some strategies for that. But I guess I just don't view, what we've been talking about or what we're about to do today or going forward, that we're going to abandon this transitional housing approach that I think is, again, work to get people back into the mainstream, to get their lives together. It's had great partnership with the county and our county staff, and I'm not looking to unravel that, I guess. And there's some funding that has to go behind that, but I think that we have models in this community that represented in this audience this morning by two of the program providers that I think are national models in and of themselves, and there may be approaches that are similar or different. But nonetheless, I think they serve this community well, and I think this board certainly had an opportunity to discuss that last week, and again this morning it's bundled up in this, and in my view, it's maybe a further refinement of what the discussions we had going back to this time last year when we were having some of the workshops, and that strategically, I don't think it makes sense to, when we've got represented here probably 550 beds and probably a couple hundred more folks than that when you start including family members and so forth. That's significant, and it's done significant work, and they may have different models, different approaches, but I think they're both pointing towards success and to helping the individuals and their families succeed. And I just make that as background for the conversation that may yet occur this morning. So thanks, Dan. Anybody else, Mr. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One last question. This one's for our county council. My understanding is that there is or was an express appeal process that St. John's could have pursued, and that was time limited. We're in possession of communications from St. John's that makes the claim that there's an element of discrimination here based on the line of questioning that I had earlier for Ann about gender. That is, there was no understanding, I guess, on behalf of the St. John's folks that there was going to be taken under consideration service delivery for one gender or another, or the prospect of not serving a particular gender. So I guess my question for you, Robin, is, even though the appeal process time period has passed, is there any standing that this board should be aware of that St. John's could pursue, knowing what we know now and what we've heard in terms of an explanation or lack thereof from Ann?
Let me first say the time for an appeal has expired. Mm-hmm. That time has passed. In terms of finding standing for an appeal, I'm more likely to answer the standing for defensibility of the county's actions. And in being part of the team that designs RFPs for your body to review, it's important to make things as broad as possible in order to fulfill the county's needs. So in something as broad as the department designed this for family, a generic definition of family, that allows for agencies to collaboratively design a model as broad in response to that RFP, and that's part of the oversight that goes through in making sure that the grading is non-discriminatory and is done fair and independently. I think your board is familiar with RFPs similarly broad-based with things like First Five, where they encourage an agency that may only provide a portion of a requested service to collaborate with the other portion of an agency. If someone is responsive and they've self-limited their services, that's part of what the independent reviewing committee is charged with reviewing, for whether that's a self-limiting or in response to the request. Is there a reason before you to open up or provide an appeal where the time has expired? I don't see it, and I wouldn't recommend it.
And that's not necessarily what I was asking. I was just, I think you've answered the question. My interest is in, how defensible is the process to date, given the fact that there's been made clear by St. John's the fact that they believe they were perhaps misinformed about the universe of population served that would be taken under consideration by the graders of their application. So I'm still struggling to kind of reconcile that in my own mind. But if you're saying that you believe that the process is defensible as you know it, then that's going to weigh in my judgment here.
Yes.
Could I ask a follow-on question, Robin? And this goes back to a point that I asked about last week in budget, and it relates to the ability for this board. And I think, there's been new information, at least revealed in the staff report, as to how folks were rated. I mean, we understand the award was going to be recommended. That was announced, but we had no idea about, in fact, even the staff report, to what Ann spoke to today, didn't mention some cultural sensitivity in there, that even though that may have been part of the scoring. I guess my question is that the recommended proposer proposed 25 beds. If we want to buy another 19 beds, we properly have before us two proposals that met all the MQs. One got rated higher than the others. And if in doing that, we wanted to, we roped off money last week, obviously, with discussion that could come back as soon as the 26th, but I think it's relevant to this morning. I guess my question is that if we want to buy additional beds for an additional amount of money, recognizing that they are dedicated to women and children, and we have ones that are dedicated to men, women, and children, family units, then what prohibits us this morning from supplementing what's here in the report, taking nothing away from what's being recommended?
Well, at the moment, you have before you an RFP, a competitive process, which the government code does require the board to set forth rules and regulations for bidding and purchasing processes that are objectively set forth and are available to the public for review. At the moment, you have before you the choice to follow through with this recommendation or to reject it, frankly, and redo the process. Or you could accept this proposal and you've segregated for another review process additional funds.
Okay, then why is, again, and I did ask for explanation, maybe that's coming for the 26th, why is that we can't supplement? I heard we can reject, you can segregate, you can award, but why can't this board supplement? And we have a proposal that's recommended. We have another one that was a part of that would buy us additional beds. So why is it this board can't do that? We already have a budget rope off for that. Why can't that be done today in this context? What in the law says you can't buy more than you ask for as it relates to if you have proposers that are qualified?
Just the advice of your board and your executive staff and executive management who have made a recommendation to work within a prescribed budgetary amount.
But we've roped off additional money, so that budgetary authority is there for additional transitional.
So this is not a budgetary authority issue. This is the RFP, from my understanding, stated one, that's what we're presenting to you. And based on conversations is that you can reject this and send us back We're coming back on the 26th with, is there other alternatives we have in front of you? It comes down to, if you want to buy additional, what's the process you follow to buy it, given that what you got in front of you had a prescribed process that we followed, and that's what's in front of you.
No, I know that, but if this board said that we've identified additional funding, again, without any designation around it, but and that could purchase the additional 19 beds that were proposed under this particular process, why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't we supplement today? Again, it takes nothing away from the recommended awardee. It basically says that we had 2 qualified proposers. We identified further funding beyond the $750,000.
So the discussion we had last week is that's what the task you've given us, is that to procure more for the $500,000 we set aside. What's the process we're going to follow? And that's what we're working with County Council and the department to come back and tell you what path you get there to procure those.
Okay, but my question to both of you is that why is the path, why is that fatally flawed that I'm asking about here this morning? Why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't that be the path?
Because we went through a process, and I'm going to go through the same answer. We went through a process. This is what you got in front of you. You want us to spend an additional $500,000. Our process dictates that we do a process for it. That's what we're stuck on.
So let me ask you a question a different way then. And I know Supervisor Kennedy, you punched up, but I want to ask, so what if we said that we put another $200,000 into this, and we said, VOA, we want you to give us another 15 beds for that. Could you buy more from that, from ORD? It's baffling to me, because it seems to me that we should have the ability, when it's properly before us, when you have 2 proposers that are qualified. We didn't have the money initially set aside. We've subsequently had that discussion, haven't decided on a process, but we have they're both properly, they're both qualified. We've had the conversation. We're not taking anything away from the bid, and they were the 2 that proposed. You know, not splitting the hair about who was recommended. I get that, but
if I can tell you, I mean, well, the question we posed out in the world was that we had this amount of money. This is what we're looking for. Right. That's the result we have. If you want to augment and put other money, as we discussed last week, our belief with County Council is that we got to go through a process. That's what we've said we will do in procurement. It's not a budgetary issue. I mean, you have the money set aside. So if you want to add more, that's a different process we go through.
okay, I still think we're talking in circles here. Okay, Supervisor Kennedy.
Thank you. I don't even know why this is a St. John's discussion, frankly. We're going to have a St. John's discussion. I think we've all decided that. We're here to talk about this RFP, which went through the process, was deliberated by a very independent group of graders. It's again, I don't think there's a member of this board or a staff member who doesn't know that St. John's does good work. And we all agree on that, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. This particular RFP, I believe, in my opinion, was successful for VOA over another bidder because it's almost a square peg round hole thing. This is specifically for a certain kind of service that we went out for bid on, being low barrier. St. John's, again, great work. We've funded them in the past. We will fund them in the future, I have a feeling. But this particular process was based upon a low barrier shelter. By definition, St. John's is not as low barrier as is VOA. So I would like to consider this proposal, this RFP today, and have the St. John's discussion at another time.
Okay. Supervisor Frost, you punched up, you know.
I was going to ask if that was a motion.
We have some speakers.
Okay.
People can make a motion if they want, but usually we do it after we have a public hearing. Okay. All right, I have a number of speakers signed up. I have Leo McFarland, followed by Daniela Johnson and Elizabeth Garza.
Good morning, Board. Leo McFarland, Volunteers of America. You asked a lot of questions today. Hopefully I can provide some clarification. I'm certainly in support of the staff recommendation. Mather, as you know, for 24 years has done exceptional work for singles and families. We continue that work. Sitting out here in the audience listening to the discussion about low barrier, hopefully the definition of what low barrier means is clear to everybody. It's taken me a while to learn exactly what low barrier means, and for many cases, low barrier is whether or not there's a father involved, and whether or not it's a two-parent household versus a one-parent household, whether or not there's a teenager involved, whether or not there's possessions issue, meaning you have so much property that it's a barrier to coming into a shelter. Low barrier also speaks to AOD issues. If you know you have an AOD issue, that shouldn't be a barrier to seeking assistance and help. If you have, we can't do background checks on folks because that's a low barrier interruption. Income requirements, there are no income requirements. So those are sorts of things that fall into the low barrier. And that's the push we've made to make sure that we don't prevent somebody who wants to seek that next level of treatment, support, and success. We're not there preventing that from happening. So those doors are pretty much open. Working very closely with the county, as Ann spoke about, making sure that clarifying going forward the methodology that we're going to need to take as a team, the county team and Volunteers of America and Mather Community Campus, to ensure that the folks that come in that front door see it as an opportunity to completely change their life around. The statistics are correct. The 85% success rate of graduation into permanent supportive housing and income, those are real numbers. The ability to house up to 25 families, which was beyond the requested 19, is doable because we have a wonderful space out there that can accommodate this. And none of this is to speak negatively about St. John's. We value St. John's in this community, and hopefully you guys are going to find a way to keep them whole going forward. I understand the process is difficult and challenging from a mechanism standpoint, but we're wholeheartedly in support of them continuing their service to the community. We won't compete for that extra dollar, that extra contract, if it comes out again. We'll make sure that we're not a roadblock to that. We didn't know how many nonprofits would be responding to that RFP to begin with. So I think it makes it slightly easier knowing that there were only 2 competitors to begin with. One of the other benefits that I want to make sure people understood about Mather Community Campus is its location to the school system out there that can support those children. We have Navigator Elementary for the kids that are in elementary school. We have Mills Junior High, we have Cordova High, but we also have schools that deal with special needs, or the children with special needs for that campus. So there have been no barriers at Mather that would prevent somebody from succeeding. We have more than 200 employers that are hiring out of the Mather Community Campus. We have job trainings that extend more than what we ever did out at Mather. We have our one-stop out there, which is a county one-stop, but we've expanded and we're doing culinary training, we're doing child care assistance, we're doing administrative training, we're doing landscape maintenance, truck driving. There's about 20 different types of employment paths you can move forward on there. And I know we've got some families that may be speaking today that can speak to some of the avenues that have been open to them because of their attendance out at Mather. Anyway, we would support the recommendation of the county. Answer any questions you might want to have about operations, our ability to work as a team, to succeed as a community. I'll leave it at that.
Good. Thanks, Leo. Supervisor Serna.
Thank you. Thanks, Leo, for being here today and answering a few of our questions. There was a question about, or I guess a characterization of clean and sober and what it means at Mather Community Campus. Can you maybe shed a little more light on what the atmosphere is precisely out there in terms of
Sure.
drug testing or?
Particularly, testing still occurs when this suspicion-based testing, if there's behavior-driven. Prior to the coordinated entry coming into play, there were 70 different providers that referred potential students out to Mather. This is singles as families. So recovery programs, shelters, and typically those folks had 30, 60, 90 days already in some kind of a program at a minimum before they came out to Mather. So they had time to sort of process what the expectations were. And so when coordinated entry came in, that pathway into Mather didn't necessarily require you to go to shelters or recovery programs. And so some of the folks over the last year and a half that were coming in, particularly on the single side, needed to have a broader exposure to what Mather was all about and the commitment that was all about. So that's been a challenge for us, but we've overcome that challenge to a great degree. And I'm very pleased with what I'm hearing from the county team in terms of how they're going to look at this now that there's HUD funding is being pulled out of Mather and as county funding, and how we're going to work a lot closer, particularly with the families, in terms of where those families, how they're going to be referred into Mather. That pathway looks more familiar, looks more like it did prior to coordinated entry going forward. So drug testing does occur out there, and we do encourage folks to find a path back to sobriety, whether it's referring them back out to recovery or detox before they can come back. So, one stumble doesn't it's not one strike you're out, it's not two strikes you're out, but there's a plan and a contract that really needs to be implemented for somebody who's struggling with their addiction.
I assume, though, that there is a point where if there are multiple relapses that at some point you do draw the line?
We do, and we find ourselves in court, and we have never lost an eviction case at Mather in 24 years.
Thank you.
Leo, just follow on. So what about with the single person side of this? Those referrals won't be coming through this necessarily. So
correct.
How do you deal with that, with the sobriety, the clean and sober on that piece, on that side? Same or differently?
Well, again, low barrier means I can't test somebody when they sign up. But if they're showing any evidence of any sort of addiction, I can test them. I mean, I can't just test everybody coming in. And then how they behave on campus will facilitate whether or not there's an intervention that occurs. Again, before, when they were coming after a 30, 60, 90-day program somewhere, those issues really weren't in front of us as much as they've been in the last year. So I'm really hoping going forward that we're not going to be faced with the same kind of referrals that we've had prior that maybe tested our resolve.
Okay. Well, and again, I think that to your point, you just echoed what I said a moment ago as well, is that with the local dollars into this and the federal dollars not, then I think, again, it's not just a matter of watching it, as Cindy alluded to last week, again, without being defined, but I think of working with BOA and obviously the folks that deliver those services, and certainly, I think, achieving the goals, obviously, of helping people, but also recognizing that, part of that program's success over the years, and obviously it's been led by BOA, but has been the fact that there has been, there have been some rules, and it doesn't mean that they were so strict that people, were kicked out to the highway if they messed up. But I think that's part of why the support has been so strong in the community over the years. And if it's challenged your resolve, then obviously it means you've had to work that much harder to try to, maintain obviously program integrity, but help folks and recognizing that there were some funding strings attached to some of that. So I think it'll be important going forward. And I guess I'm going to say once again, though, to staff, I guess I kind of want to know what that looks like, because I know we've had this conversation in the past couple of years as things evolved, and in SSF in particular, we're moving folks that may not have had the same commitment that your program guidelines would have desired for the folks that came into it. Because again, it's not just an individual or a few individuals, it's the entire program, because those can have impacts. Far from me to know all those, but with others that are enrolled in the program and working in the campus to get their lives together. And I know there's hundreds of success stories that have been achieved over the years.
There are. And we're very encouraged with the communications we're having with county staff, Cindy and Ann, and the whole team, Eduardo. So we're very positive going forward that because it's county funding, county general fund funding, that will be as successful as we have been historically. And also just background, whether it's been 24 years or 10 years, the numbers of folks that present themselves at Mather, through all those systems, 90 to 95% of them have been struggling with some sort of addiction issue or mental illness. So nothing's new on that front. Mm-hmm. It's typically when they walk in the door, have they dealt with any of those issues prior that make them even more successful once they land at Mather?
Okay. All right, any other questions of Leo? Okay. If not, thanks, Leo. All right. Then next we have Daniela, and then Daniela will be followed by Elizabeth Garza, followed by Marcus Robinson. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm here as one of the families that graduated from Mather. I just wanted to speak on the importance of the program. It was, before I got into the program, I was homeless with 2 children. One of my daughters had a very severe mental health illness. It was very hard. That was one of the barriers that I had getting into any kind of program. Mather opened their doors and gave me the chance to work through those things, as well as gain a lot of education around mental health, which is a huge issue. It's not just the money part and the job part, it's mental health. They were very compassionate. We worked very closely together, and even to this day still, I now work with families that have children with mental health challenges and families that have AOD. And that's a really big issue in trying to get them into any kind of shelter, as well as speaking on fathers with children. That's a huge issue as well. It's a huge challenge. And working with Mather, they are able to assist me and give me resources to help these families to do those things. Again, without Mather, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. I was homeless, a victim of domestic violence, no job, no hope, anything. Today I'm standing here in front of you as a community member that is able to contribute. My daughter is able to go to school and be successful. I now work with the county, I work for the county, and that's all thanks to Mather. If it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be now.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle. Okay, thank you, Danielle, for sharing that. Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Garza. So I came to speak on behalf of the family side at Mather. When I went to Mather, I had just barely got my 3 kids back from CPS. I got my CPS case closed, and I was having a hard time being a single mom of 3 kids, especially because my son had PTSD. My daughter was a trauma child, and they were all abused. And when I signed them up for school, I was having a hard time dealing with them because I didn't know how to deal with kids like that. Mather program helped me calm my son down. They helped me have a full discussion with my daughter about what happened to her in the past. They helped me get counseling for me and my kids. They helped me get an IEP meeting for my son to help him deal with his trauma and his PTSD. And they also helped me get my high school diploma that I've been trying to get for over 10 years. And I had received my high school diploma within a month and a half. They also watched my kids while I went to my classes, and they picked up my kids from school. And they helped me save money to get my own apartment. And they also helped me with backpacks and stuff for my kids. So with all that said, today I am a success. Even though I did not graduate from the Mather, they did help me find a job a week after I left Mather. So now I have a full-time job. I'm doing great with my 3 kids. I have my own apartment, and I am also driving a 2016 Nissan that I just drove off the parking lot. I just had to say that.
You got to keep working now.
So yeah. So today I am doing great, and even though I'm not in the Mather program, I do call them on a weekly basis, and they do try to help me in any way that I can.
Great.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, Marcus, and Marcus is followed by Krishana and Angel.
Hello, good morning. My name is Marcus Robinson.
Hi, Marcus.
I am currently a supervisor at Volunteers of America at Mather Community Campus and Adolfo Transitional Housing for Former Foster Youth. I'm also a junior varsity basketball coach at Oakmont High School. I coach a nationally ranked AAU basketball team in Rockland, California. And none of these things would have been possible if I did not go into the program at Mather Community Campus with my wife and then 6-month-old daughter. I was homeless. I came into Mather with a lot of barriers, substance abuse, criminal history, gaps in employment, bad credit. And going through the program at Mather, they helped me overcome all of these barriers, gave me the confidence to believe in myself again. And now to be able to work at Mather and be able to help people who are in the same position that I once found myself in is just a blessing in itself. My wife is also an employee at Volunteers of America. She is support staff. She works graveyard there. So I have my wife, my daughter, and my son. And life is just great right now, and just to have the opportunity to help people, like I said, who are in the same position that I was in, is just a blessing. And so moving forward, I just want to continue to be able to help people who are in the same position I am, and just seeing people lives turn around like my life has turned around. It's God's work, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Can I ask you a question, Coach?
Yes, sir.
First of all, thanks for speaking. I'm real curious. Was there a watershed moment or thought or part of your experience where you realized that you have to be part of helping to change your circumstance? It wasn't just going to be one agency or one local government that's going to do it for you. Was there a kind of a revelation or epiphany that you had that really signified the beginning of coming out of homelessness for you?
Yes, sir. It was the birth of my daughter. I was homeless. I was living a lifestyle that I'm not very proud of. And when my daughter was born, I realized it wasn't just about me anymore, that the choices I've made and decisions I made were not just going to affect me, it was going to affect her future. Didn't have a very bright childhood myself, and I just wanted to make sure that I was the father that I didn't have to her. And as we were looking for programs to help us make that transition, Mather just stood out above all of them. You know, there was programs that would have accepted my wife and my daughter, or just me, myself, or my wife by herself. But there wasn't a lot of programs and options I had for me, for my wife and my daughter and myself all together to be together. And once we were together, and the motivation just came there. You know, being at Mather, and they helped motivate me as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus, for sharing. Okay, Krishana, and then followed by Angel, and then followed by Debbie Shockley.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm here to speak on behalf of Mather Family Side. I just moved into Mather August 23rd. I've been homeless for about 3 years after leaving a domestic violence situation. So I'm a survivor from that. However, I have 7 children, which made it very hard for me to get into many shelters. A lot of them, my oldest son is now 18. He just turned 18 July 31st. But prior to that, he was still a minor. And a lot of them would not accept him with us, or a lot of them did not have the room for all of us. Any mother knows it's hard to leave one of your children still homeless out there, and the rest of you be in shelter. Mather, they brought me in, and not only did they bring me and my other 6 children in, they put my son on the single side. So therefore, I can have a chance to not have to worry about where he's sleeping and focus on getting me back together, getting me back out there into the workforce. I have so much hope now. Before I came to Mather, I didn't know what I was going to do. I really didn't. My children were getting a little bit upset. They didn't have much hope, my older ones. I have a 9th grader. This is his first year, and he was very concerned about starting high school late or missing a lot of high school as my other 2 children did. So Mather, we came in, they got him in school the next day. He's now going to Cordova. My other children go to Navigator. They walk there. It's like a 6-minute walk to Navigator. My son, he gets bused to Cordova. It's awesome. It's really awesome, and we all have hope now. And I'm so excited about the future. I'm excited about the things that's going to happen within this year that's going to get me and my family to self-sufficiency. I know it's going to be great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Krishana. Thanks for sharing. Okay, Angel and then Debbie Shockley. Good morning.
Hi, my name's Angel Crump.
Hi, Angel.
Before I came to Mather, I was living in my car with my husband, and we had no hope. We had trouble getting into places that would accept my husband and my 3 children. And when we got in there, my husband got a job like the very next day. He's now working for Siemens. He's a welder. I'm a trained security guard. My kids are in school. They're doing really good. And if it wasn't for them, we would still be sleeping in our car with no place to go and no job. So I'd just like to thank them very much.
Good. Thank you, Angel. Okay, then Debbie Shockley, and Debbie's the last one I have signed up. So if anybody else wishes to address the board on this item, get a speakerphone in. So.
Hi, my name's Debbie Shockley. I'm a case manager for Volunteers of America working at the Mather Community Campus since 2006. I have a letter of support here that came from one of our students that could not attend because she's working, and she doesn't have the time to take off. So I'd like to read this.
Sure.
To whom it may concern, my name is Elizabeth Terrell. I am a graduate from the Volunteers of America Mather Community Campus Family Side. I was in the program from April 6, 2016 to May 25, 2017. I came to Mather from a different program. My children and I were at St. John's program for about a year, and I needed more time and guidance before I would feel comfortable living on my own. Mather helped me open my eyes to the fact that I can't help others unless they want to be helped. I was homeless for many different reasons. The big one that I understand was my prior addiction to drugs. But the underlying and sometimes more damaging reason was my issues with codependency. I relearned basic life skills through the classes at Mather, how to budget wisely and create multiple plans for budgeting, how to say no to others constantly asking for help, and instead guide them towards finding ways to work towards their goals and needs, how to work as a member of my community, how to maintain my sobriety and sanity at the same time. Mather Community Campus is a wonderful program for those students who are willing to actually ask for help and put the work in towards getting a better life. It is the only long-term program I have ever heard of that doesn't just attend the needs of one type of person, but all types of people and families. I value the fact that the family side is open to single moms, single fathers, and 2-parent families. You won't find support like that anywhere else. The staff on campus are also part of the reason I highly value the program. Most of the direct services staff, client services staff, come from backgrounds similar to the students living on campus, so it makes it easy for us to open up and talk to them in times of need. When someone chooses to make a decision like admitting they need help and going into a program, it can be scary knowing your life could be different from anything you have ever known. The staff show you hope and help guide you through your ups and downs. Mather helps you find the stability and strength you need to live a good life and be a positive role model to others. I completed all of my classes and hours of volunteer service at Mather and then went to search for a job. I was hired on at Blood Source as a temporary employee on July 13, 2006. On January 9, 2017, I was picked up full-time as a permanent member employee at Blood Source and still work there to this day. I have my own 3-bedroom apartment and have managed to pay off 6 debts that were affecting my credit score, all since I came to Mather Community Campus. I still have ups and downs in life, just like any normal person, but now I have the tools I need to get through tough times and come out on top. Please approve this grant for Mather Community Campus so they can continue to help families like mine have a normal and happy life, not just for the parents, but for all of the children as well. If anyone needs to speak with me or has any questions, my telephone number is blank.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Tell her thank you for the letter, too. Appreciate her sharing that. So.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the speakers I had for that item. Board members have any questions? Okay. Then I'm going to offer a motion here in just a moment, but I want to just make a quick comment. One, I want to just say I think that the testimony this morning certainly is, again, evidence of the good work that goes on at Mather Community Campus. I've been a longtime supporter. We came on this board about the time we were having discussions about whether to actually have a program at Mather, and recall, obviously, to some of my questions this morning, some of the concerns the community had initially going in with a then recently closed military base that had been so much part of the community for decades, what we were going to do with those properties out there, and hence even last week the discussions about reinvesting money both in the Mather complex, but certainly I think some of the needs out at the campus that relates to some of the buildings that belong in our possession of the county. But I would just say that certainly I'm very pleased, obviously, with the work that Volunteers America has done, along with the partners out there, and we went through some pretty awful times in the recession, and we're able to maintain semblance of that program, or a large semblance of that program, and can I certainly thank Leo and his staff for their good work. But I think the testimony, obviously, of the folks is evidence clear that what's done out there works for people's lives and for this community in many ways. I just want to note also that to my questions this morning, again, it was certainly no slide on Volunteers America, and I think that's been well recognized. And in supporting this recommendation, my expectation that on the 26th we will have a very robust discussion, hopefully a recommendation, and I'll look to you, Nav, that will allow us to take on the whole conversation about what we do with the other proposers not recommended here, St. John's, because again, I expressed my concerns early on this hearing this morning, and I have a very strong expectation that we will have recommendation to allow us to get to some resolution on that matter. But matter before us this morning, obviously, is the award of this particular RFP, and I'm prepared to move the staff recommendation in that light.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
Unanimous vote with those members present.
Okay, next item.
Item 49, status of City of Sacramento request for services related to Whole Person Care Pilot Program.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Paul Lake, Deputy County Executive with the Social Services Agency. For the past number of weeks, we have been reviewing various requests made by the City of Sacramento regarding their Whole Person Care Pilot Program. And we were recently approached by the city to sit down in some facilitated discussions to discuss how they can access our services. We have assigned our Deputy Director for Behavioral Health, our Deputy Director for Primary Care Services, our Director of Homeless Initiatives, and our MHSA Program Manager to sit in on those discussions that will begin next week as part of a work group that will include city staff. And based on the outcome of those discussions, we'll make a more detailed report back to the board in October on the Whole Person Care Program.
So you expect to be back to us at what point in time then for this, 30 days?
We want to be back first meeting in October.
Okay.
To let you know what status is and how they can access the services that we have.
Because I know there's been conversations on a number of fronts. And so, Supervisor Kennedy.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank staff for what we've embarked upon is a facilitated conversation with the city. As we know, as Mr. Lake said, we've been approached to participate with the city in their whole person grant. As we all know, the county has some reservations about the entire whole person grant. However, that's not to be said that we're not going to serve the same population that the whole person grant is supposed to serve. That's what we do. And I think the desired outcome of these conversations that we're having at the staff level, because county policymakers and city policymakers have already set direction, now it's a question of implementation, is to see how we can, not necessarily take over the whole person grant or, completely mesh the two, but how we can create a system in which we will be delivering those services in accordance with what the city's programs are under the whole person care grant. I think I characterized that correctly, Mr. Lake.
Yes.
It's a very aggressive timeline that has been put forward. Kind of negotiated between the city and the county through the facilitator. The county staff has done a tremendous job of clearing calendars, of making people available, even with vacations going on, to make that happen. So I believe that is happening. The first meeting in October is a fantastic goal. I hope we can make it, but it's pretty aggressive. But we have to be aggressive. So I just wanted to thank you for your efforts.
Okay. Supervisor Stern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the other member of this board that represents a portion of the city of Sacramento, District 1, I too want to underscore the fact that we are working very aggressively, I would characterize it that way, with the city and with the mayor's office. We being Supervisor Kennedy and myself with our respective staff members. And I just want to use this opportunity to let the public know that we've been very methodical this summer in waiting to understand the specifics from the city in terms of what their request really means. There's been a lot of rhetoric, quite frankly, and a lot of media reports about whole person care and whether or not the county is willing to entertain participation. But we really couldn't start in earnest. We couldn't begin in earnest a conversation until we clearly understood from the city's perspective what it is that they would hope the county would consider in terms of partnership. And so the city's been equally deliberative in terms of communicating what their needs are, what their desire is in terms of that partnership. And so let there be no misunderstanding, misconception that we are strong-arming the city and trying to avoid participation. That's just not the case. We are, in fact, being very careful, both the city and the county, in terms of how we carefully consider any prospect of partnership in the context of the grant. So I just want to make that perfectly clear that we are cooperating. We continue to have weekly, sometimes daily conversations about it, and the public needs to understand that. Thanks.
Just a question I have, in both the facilitated discussions, but also in the report that you're looking to bring back to this board in early October, at least as contemplated. Are we looking at the funding? I mean, that's core to, we can talk about coordinating services and serving the same population and so forth, but the funding is key. And I think that funding that is available through the whole person grant, funding that's available in a place like home for the county, and maybe other funding streams that come through for mental health and other services. And so that's a key piece, not just in any given year, but obviously for the term of the grant that the cities receive. And so what sort of analysis can we expect as it relates to that and how it relates to planning processes that we have already attended to, but that would obviously have to be encountered in the event that we were going to make significant shifts and or re-identification of funding. So.
Well, we'll be looking at all aspects of the different funding sources that could come into play on this. We'll be looking at potential sources of funding that we could use to make sure that the services get to the people who we are serving as well as the city is serving. And we'll also be looking at any implications of city requests that might impact what we're already doing with our service, with our funding streams. So we'll be looking at all aspects of the dollars as well as our services.
Supervisor Tolley, I just want to be clear, is that we have been looking at that ever since the request came in, to the point that both Supervisor Kennedy and Cerna have made. This has been a request that we've been working pretty feverishly on our side. We are stepping back at this point to have more of a facilitated conversation, then bring it back to you. I just did not want to leave that we've not been looking at it. We have been looking. Numerous conversations have been had. Some of them have been facilitated by Supervisor Kennedy, some by Supervisor Cerna, Supervisor Cerna with city staff on the whole MHSA. So we will be ready to have that discussion with you.
Okay. All right. Any other board members, any questions or comments? I don't have anybody signed up to speak and may wish to speak to this. I know we have certainly folks in the audience who are interested in this topic, but all right. So we'll contemplate seeing this in early October. A lot of work to.
That's what I'd like to do.
Okay. All right. That's a receive and file then, and certainly would note the work that's gone into this thus far. So, all right. With that, then we come down to item 50.
Yes, item 50 are your nominations. You are continuing to October 17th, the Assessment Appeals Board and Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee, continuing to October 31st, the Cemetery Advisory Commission, County Service Area 4B, Slough House, Wilton, Consumnes, County Service Area 4C, Delta Citizens Municipal Advisory Council, Local Child Care Planning and Development Council, Sacramento County Redevelopment Successor Agency Oversight Board, and the Southeast Area Community Planning Advisory Council. And for your matters today, the first would be Adult and Aging. Mr. Natoli.
I understand interviews are pending, and to continue this to October 17th, 2017.
Children's Coalition.
Likewise, interviews are pending, continued October 17th.
Okay. Civil Service Commission.
I want to hold that over for till the 17th, October.
Okay. And Cordova Community Planning Advisory Council, Supervisor Frost.
Continue to 10/17.
Okay, Mr. Natoli.
Yeah, I recommend reappointment of the incumbents are Carmen Mitchell and Maurice Thomas.
And then you also have remaining seats. Do you want to continue that?
Yes, October 17th.
Okay. And then we have the Developmental Disabilities Planning and Advisory Council. Mr. Natoli.
Interviews are pending, continued October 17th. Sound like a broken record here.
Orangeville Community Planning Advisory Council, Ms. Frost.
Continue to October 17.
Sacramento County Mental Health Board, Mr. Cerna.
Please continue to October 1st.
Okay. And Ms. Frost.
Continue to October 17.
And excuse me, Mr. Cerna, you mean October 17th?
Excuse me?
You continue to October 17th?
No, October 1st.
We don't have a meeting on October 1st.
Oh, then my staff gave me the wrong date. Okay, 17th.
Okay.
Put a 7 behind the 1.
Yeah, that matches my notes.
Okay, great.
on the 1st.
Sacramento County Youth Commission, Mr. Cerna.
Please continue to October 17th.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, reappoint Amelia Rose Engel.
Ms. Frost.
I'd like to nominate Sneha Kumar.
Okay, and then Mr. Natoli.
Interview pending, continued October 17th.
Okay. Next is the Sheriff's Outreach Community Advisory Board, Mr. Kennedy.
Reappoint Sunny Chong.
Ms. Peters.
Continue to October 17th.
Ms. Frost.
Continue to October 17.
Mr. Natoli.
Ditto.
Okay. And then our last is Vineyard Area Community Planning Advisory Council, Mr. Kennedy.
Reappoint John Costa and continue the remainder till October 17th.
Okay. And Mr. Natoli.
Continued October 17th.
Got it. And that concludes your nominations.
Okay, concludes nominations. All right, takes us down to board member, or County Executive, comments?
Just have one. I wanted to let the board know and the public know on September 26th at 2 p.m., the board subcommittee on transient occupancy tax, that panel is going to be coming back with this recommendation, and we're looking for a final decision by the board at that point.
Okay. Anything else? Okay,
That's it.
board members? Here? Just want to know, I commented, I think, a week ago or two, are you looking to get a date for review by, I guess staff review first, but for the bingo ordinance, I know we've had visits.
Yes, I should have a date for you by September
Okay.
26th.
All right, good, thanks. All right, that takes us to the end of business. I have no one else signed to speak on anything that's not on the agenda. Any adjournments? I know we have no adjournments today, so with that then, we will adjourn until September 26th.